Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, worshippers of all ages, welcome back to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we have a first look for you, this time having a look at Tier 10 Premium Japanese Light Cruiser, Kitakami. That's right, you've probably heard this ship's name cursed or referenced in a meme somewhere if you've played this game any time in the last 4 years, because, well, Kitakami used to be a thing. Way back in, I think Alpha and Beta, maybe just Beta, I don't remember. I didn't actually have Beta access, so I couldn't tell you. Somebody older and smarter than me is going to have to explain all of this. But the bottom line is that this ship used to have a Tier 8 iteration, and basically she is a giant torpedo spam boat. The trouble is that they couldn't really balance the ship in that era. They struggled with it, and so she was removed from availability for players for quite some time, and then eventually she was simply removed from the game code, like completely out of the client. And then 3 years passed, and here we are today, with them bumping her up to Tier 10 and trying to reintroduce her. So this video is going to be a little different from the format of a typical first look video. Normally I go through and talk about how a ship stacks up in its tier. Kitakami's basically the worst in tier at everything it does, with a couple of minor exceptions, and we'll highlight those along the way. And then we'll talk about this ship in general, okay? So let's just start at it. Survivability, 28,500 hit points. This is terrible. This is like the equivalent of 2 battleship citadels, maybe, right? I will say that I think that there is, right now, this ship does have something going for it in the sense of its armor is so bad, right? 65 millimeters there on the belt. This is actually slightly thinner than the Citadel armor on Smolensk, which, of course, as we all know, is one of the notoriously hardest ships in Tier 10 to Citadel, because most battleship shelves have so much pen at this tier, they simply pass through the Citadel without ever arming and detonating. They go right through it, like it was Swiss cheese. So is Kitakami going to be that way? I don't know, right? I haven't played this ship. Only, testers have access to her now. The data will tell us much, I suppose. But right now, I would say that you're probably not likely to Citadel this thing with battleships. Now, cruisers, more likely, I think. The heavy cruisers in the world, the battle cruisers, the heavy cruisers at this tier, probably start to get to where they can actually Citadel this thing a little easier. By the way, Kitakami is built on a Kuma hull. Yes, this is a Tier 4 light cruiser in World of Warships that Wargaming is attempting to port into Tier 10. Other thing of note, 0 torpedo protection. This hull has no TDS at all, so yeah, don't run into torpedoes. Artillery, yeah, you do actually have guns on this ship. Nobody talks about them, but you do have them. You got 4 of these little single-barreled 140mm mounts. For Tier 4, back when you first played this ship, these are actually not too bad guns. At Tier 10, these are a bad joke. You might find yourself gunning down a low-health destroyer with one of these things, but let's be honest, most of the destroyers in this tier outgun you, so don't get in a gunfight, okay? You do actually have a secondary turret. Why? I don't know. Meme-tacular. Somewhere in the future, there will be a screenshot of a Kitakami getting a close quarters expert, and we'll all laugh. The torpedoes. This is what all the hubbub is about, right? Because as you look at this ship, you see what they've done with the Kuma is they've added these little flare-out steel portions along the hull, and they've added 5 quad launchers of Japanese torpedoes to each side of the ship. Now, as I understand it, historically, what was actually done was that these were the long lance torpedoes, right? So these would have been probably the 20-kilometer Shimakaze torpedoes, which are still spotted from orbit, but are not bad torpedoes and are actually very good at area denial. Instead, what Wargaming has opted to test for the moment, these are the stock Type 90s. These are the same torpedoes you find on Tier 7 Premium Japanese destroyer Udachi. And if you own a Udachi or you've played a Udachi, you know how bad these torpedoes are. These torpedoes are atrociously bad. Not in the sense of the damage they do. You see there, a 16K Alpha is not too bad, although admittedly against the Tier 10 belts and TDS you're going to be up against for most of these ships, it's not amazing, right? But what's really going to kick her is the 15-kilometer range is nice. 15-kilometer range is nice, but 1.9 detection on a 57 knot speed. That gives the enemy who spots your torpedoes 13 seconds to react. Okay, the only way this ship's going to land torpedo hits is volume, right? And that's where Udachi fails. Udachi only puts what I think she's a double quadruple rack, so she can only put eight in the water at a time. Of course, you see Kitakami here can put lots more in the water at a time. She has 20 torpedoes on each side of the ship, but I mean, you're probably going to land some just out of just sheer volume. But I mean, these are not amazing torpedoes. You're not going to sneak up on anybody with these things. Speaking of sneaking up on anything, one thing Kitakami does have going for her is she is fairly stealthy. A full stealth rig Kitakami will get down to a touch over 8 kilometers detection. That is good for best in tier for a tier 10 cruiser. Is it going to save her in a tier where there's radar and planes everywhere? No. But it is nice. I mean, at least you've got that going for you. You have significantly longer torpedo range than you have detection range. That's nice. You need that in this ship. 32 knots, 640 turning circle. I mean, again, these are all statistics pulled straight off the Kuma hull, more or less. This speed can get you into trouble, too. A Kleber can run this thing down. A Kleber could Citadel this thing to death. Easily, right? So this is a ship with a million disadvantages and very few advantages. Speaking of disadvantages, that's right, kids. Let's talk about her anti-aircraft armament, or by which I mean her complete and total lack of anti-aircraft armor. Remember that secondary gun? Yeah, that's her one long-range gun. You see there she has a whopping 18 DPS in the long-range aura with a single flak burst. And then she does have some of the ubiquitous Japanese triple 25 millimeters to make up an inner A ring of about 100 DPS. This thing is food for any tier 10 carrier, or tier 8 carrier, honestly, that wanders across it. I don't know where they're going with this ship, kids. I really don't. I have no idea. I haven't played it. Right now, the design of this ship to me feels so bad, it's just a meme. Like, you'll play this ship for laughs, but you don't expect anything out of it. It's not seriously competitive under any circumstances. It's honestly, I don't even know that it's seriously a threat to a lot of a team that with a team with players who are awake and conscious and breathing at their keyboards. I mean, if you know where the thing is and you're inside of 15 kilometers, you just start maneuvering and make some rudder shifts and so on and so forth, because like these torpedoes are so slow and they're spotted from orbit. If you have anybody out in front of you, screening for you between you and the Kitakami, you're going to have no problem dodging the majority of these torpedoes. Yeah, you'll probably take one or two. If you're a battleship, fine. But like, you have a torpedo protection system and 100,000 hit points and 3 or 4 heal buttons for a reason as a battleship, right? Don't you? Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, man. At Tier 8, and within this thing had the old 20-kilometer torpedoes, it was actually, I'd say it was legitimately a threat. Like 20-kilometer torpedo spam is it can be a real threat. Just ask Asashio, right? Is this thing a threat in its current configuration to any ship at Tier 10? Highly, highly questionable. Highly questionable, let's say. The one thing it has going for it is sheer volume of torpedoes, because the individual torpedoes are not scary, but it can put a lot of them out. So it just vomits torpedoes and runs and hides for 2 minutes. That's the other thing. I don't know if you noticed, that torpedo reload, 141 seconds. Now, I will say we should go back and check the consumables, right? She does get some smoke, right? She gets the short duration smoke that the British destroyers get. She gets an engine boost, and she does get a heal. She gets a heal, guys. Amazing. And she can take torpedo tubes modification 3 in this slot, right? Which will lower. Okay, so now we're right at 120 seconds. Like, you can build this ship out to be passable. I just think at Tier 10 there's just too much hunting it, too many disadvantages, and the impact on a match it's going to have is fairly minimal. That's my opinion without ever having played the ship. Maybe I'm wrong. I guess we'll find out. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Wash your hands, be safe out there, and I'll catch you next time.